He used to text you back within minutes. Now it takes hours, sometimes days. He used to ask about your day, genuinely interested in every detail. Now his responses are polite, but distant. He used to fight for the relationship when things got rocky. Now he just go quiet. You didn't see him change. One day he was warm, invested, present. The next day he was somewhere else. Not angry, not hurt, just cold. And the strangest part? You can't pinpoint when the shift happened or what caused it. But he can. He remembers the exact moment, the moment his patience ran out. This video explains the psychological process that transforms a patient, caring man into someone emotionally unreachable. And if you've ever wondered where the warm man you knew disappeared to, what you're about to learn will answer every question. Stay with me. Let's start with something most women misunderstand about patient men. Patience isn't unlimited. It's a resource. And like any resource, it can be depleted every time. A patient man extends understanding when he deserves an apology. Every time he accepts an excuse when he deserves accountability. Every time he gives another chance when he should walk away. He's making a withdrawal from a finite account. Most women assume patience equals weakness or unlimited tolerance. They think he's patient, so he'll always be there. They mistake his calm for indifference, his understanding for doormat behavior, his restraint for lack of options. But patient men aren't patient because they lack boundaries. They're patient because they're choosing to believe in potential, hoping the relationship will match the effort they're investing. The cold you eventually encounter isn't cruelty. It's conservation. It's what happens when a man realizes his patience was being exploited, not valued. When he understands that what he thought was building something was actually just him building alone. This video breaks down the 5 psychological stages that transform patience into coldness. Each stage is irreversible once crossed. Each stage represents a door closing that you didn't realize was open, and by the end, you'll understand why trying to warm him back up after he's gone cold is nearly impossible. Let's break it down. Stage 1. The invisible accounting. Patient men don't keep score consciously, but neurologically, something else is happening. Every time a patient man extends grace, his brain registers the imbalance. Every unreciprocated effort, every ignored boundary, every broken promise gets logged in what psychologists call relationship equity assessment. At the beginning, both people deposit into the shared account. Effort is mutual, investment matches. But over time, some women start withdrawing more than they deposit. They take patience without offering it back. They accept understanding without providing it. They demand grace while offering judgment. The patient man notices. But instead of reacting, he chooses to assume good, intent, and give more time. Maybe she's stressed. Maybe this is temporary. So he extends more patience, more understanding, more chances. And every time, his subconscious quietly calculates the deficit. This invisible accounting happens below conscious awareness. He doesn't think, she owes me 3 apologies. But his nervous system knows. It's tracking that effort flows one direction. That vulnerability is one-sided. That consideration is unreciprocated. This data accumulates silently until it reaches a threshold. Here's what women miss. They see his patience and interpret it as infinite. They assume his understanding means he's unaffected. But what they're witnessing is him choosing every single day to give benefit of the doubt. And that choosing gets harder each time the benefit isn't earned. The invisible accounting stage can last months or years, but the meter is running. Every dismissed feeling adds to the count. Every minimized concern increases the balance. Every "you're overreacting" when he's underreacting accumulates debt. And he's keeping track even if he doesn't know it. What makes this stage dangerous is its invisibility to both parties. She doesn't see it because he's not presenting bills. He doesn't fully see it because he's rationalizing each incident. But the subconscious sees everything. filing evidence for the day when he finally looks at the total and realizes it's unsustainable. Stage 2. The communication exhaustion. Stage 2 begins when the patient man tries to address the imbalance. He doesn't blow up. He attempts to communicate like an adult. I feel like I'm the only one making effort. I need you to consider my feelings too. He comes calm, clear, respectful, and nothing changes. This is communication exhaustion. For a patient man, trying to communicate is an act of faith. He believes if he can explain clearly enough, she'll understand and adjust. So, he keeps trying different approaches. First, the direct approach, states his feelings plainly, asks for specific changes. She agrees, but behaviors don't shift. So he tries the emotional approach, shares how deeply her actions affect him. She seems to get it, but nothing changes long term. Then the analytical approach, points out patterns, provides examples. She gets defensive, claims he's keeping score. Each failed attempt costs him something. Faith that words matter. Trust that she cares about his experience. Hope the relationship can improve. The exhaustion is cognitive. He spent so much mental energy finding the right words, tone, moment, approach. None of it works. What women don't understand is what repeated communication failure does to a patient man. It doesn't make him angry initially. It makes him tired, bone-deep tired, because he's fighting against the growing realization that she doesn't care enough to change. That realization is devastating. You'll see it when he stops bringing things up. Not because issues are resolved, but because he's learned it leads nowhere. His responses to "what's wrong" shift from detailed explanations to "nothing" or "I'm fine." The space between you that was filled with sharing is now filled with silence. The patient man isn't refusing to communicate. He's protecting himself from the pain of trying to reach someone who isn't receiving. Every unanswered attempt reinforces that his words don't carry weight, that his vulnerability is wasted. Here's the trap. The more he stops communicating, the more she claims he's shut down. She doesn't connect his silence to years of invalidating his voice. She sees a man who won't talk and feels justified in her behavior. The patient man becomes the problem for going quiet, never mind that her deafness created the quiet. Stage 3. The priority inversion. Stage 3 is when the patient man realizes he's made her his priority while she's made him an option. This comes through pattern recognition. He's always adjusting his schedule for her, always canceling plans when she needs him, always showing up when it's inconvenient. Meanwhile, when he needs her, she's busy, tired, has other commitments. Can it wait? He absorbs this because he understands limitations. But what he starts seeing is that her availability is selective. For him, it's limited. For others, for her interests, suddenly time materializes. The priority inversion is painful because it reveals value assignment. We make time for what we value. When he sees he's consistently at the bottom of her priority list, while she's at the top of his, something shifts. He starts pulling back his prioritization. Not vindictively, but logically. If she doesn't prioritize him, constantly prioritizing her creates unhealthy imbalance. So he starts saying no occasionally, stops always being available, makes plans that don't include her, and keeps them. But the moment he stops over-prioritizing her, she notices. His previous behavior, unacknowledged when present, becomes missed now that it's absent. She might accuse him of changing or not caring anymore. The irony is staggering. His consistent prioritization meant nothing until he stopped providing it. This is where the patient man starts choosing himself, not selfishly, but in balance. He realizes his time has value. His energy matters. His presence is a gift, not a given. If she doesn't treat it as valuable, he stops giving it freely. This isn't coldness yet. This is boundary setting. But it's the foundation for what comes next. Stage 4. The emotional disconnection. This is when the patient man's feelings start shutting down, not by choice, but as protection. He's been hurt too many times, disappointed too often, let down too consistently. The human nervous system has a built-in protection, emotional numbing. The disconnection doesn't feel like a decision. It feels like waking up one day and realizing you don't feel the same anymore. The anxiety about her mood, gone. The hope things will improve, faded. The pain when she disrespects you, dulled. His system has decided caring is too costly and started shutting down the emotional circuitry. Women panic at this stage because it's the first time they see real change. His anger they could manage, his frustration they could work with, his patience they could exploit. But his indifference? That's terrifying. She's losing relevance in his emotional world. She's being downgraded from someone who matters to someone who's just there. The emotional disconnection manifests specifically. He stops getting jealous because he's no longer invested enough to care. He stops fighting for the relationship because he's too exhausted. He stops trying to fix things because he's accepted they won't be fixed. He becomes a roommate at best, a shell at worst. This stage is particularly tragic because she often tries to reconnect here. She finally notices something serious is wrong. She might initiate conversations, suggest therapy, promise change, and the patient man, he participates half-heartedly, not because he doesn't want it to work, but because he no longer believes it can. Psychologically, emotional disconnection is the precursor to complete coldness. It's the dimmer switch between warm and cold. The patient man in this stage can still be pulled back, but it requires massive, sustained, genuine effort, not promises. Fundamental change maintained over time. And even then, the scar tissue makes full reconnection difficult. Stage 5. The cold permanence. This is the final stage. The patient man becomes cold, permanently. His warmth, once freely given, is now locked behind walls he built to protect what's left of himself. This isn't emotional immaturity. This is self-preservation that's become permanent identity. The cold permanence has a specific quality. He's not mean or cruel. He's just unavailable, emotionally unreachable. He goes through relationship motions if it still exists, but there's no life behind the actions. He says, "I love you," because he's supposed to, not because he feels it. He's present physically while absent in every way that matters. What makes this permanent is that the patient man has learned something he can't unlearn. Patience with her is self-destructive. He tried patience and it got exploited. He tried communication and it got ignored. He tried prioritizing her and it went unreciprocated. He tried staying emotionally open and got hurt. So he's closed those pathways permanently. Women who encounter this often try to bring back the old him. They reminisce about how he used to be. They want the warm, patient, caring man back, but they fail to understand. That man didn't leave. He was systematically destroyed by the person now asking for his return. The cold permanence is not reversible through the relationship that created it. The patient man may warm again in his next relationship, with someone who values his patience. But with the woman who turned his warmth into coldness, that door is closed. The mechanism that once generated warmth for her has been permanently shut down. This is where many relationships end, even if they don't officially end. They become dead relationships with living participants. The patient man she knew is gone. The cold man who remains is a protective shell around a wounded core that learned too late patience without reciprocity is just self-harm. The female psychology component. Why do some women push patient men to this point? It's not malicious. It's psychological. Many women have been conditioned to associate emotional intensity with love. Drama means passion. Fighting means caring. A calm, patient man doesn't trigger those associations. So, unconsciously, she tests him. She creates situations to see if he'll react emotionally. She pushes boundaries to see if he'll fight for her. Not because she's evil, but because her nervous system equates emotional chaos with relationship health. Patient stability feels like disinterest. Additionally, some women misread patience as lack of options. If he's this patient, he must not have other choices. She assumes his patience reflects low value rather than high character. So, she takes him for granted. This backfires spectacularly when he does leave. There's also emotional validation through reactivity. Some women feel most loved when a man is reacting. His anger proves she matters. His jealousy proves he cares. A patient man who doesn't easily react denies her that validation. So she escalates, trying to generate the emotional response her system craves. The tragedy is that she's creating a man who completely stops reacting, not because he's mastered patience, but because he's shut down. She pushed for reactions until his only protective option was to stop reacting entirely. Female psychology around this isn't universal. Emotionally mature women value patience as strength. They recognize a calm man as a catch. They appreciate stability as security. But women operating from unhealed patterns will destroy a patient man's warmth every time. Not intentionally, but inevitably. The aftermath and prevention. What happens after he goes cold? If they're still together, the relationship exists in name only. He's a ghost. They might stay together for kids, finances, or fear. But the relationship that was is gone. If separated, he either becomes genuinely cold in future relationships, unable to trust patience won't be exploited again, or becomes selective, only showing patience to women who value it. Both are self-protective adaptations. She typically goes through predictable stages: denial, panic, bargaining with promises of change, anger that he's the bad guy, and sometimes acceptance. But rarely does genuine understanding occur of the years-long process that created his coldness. Here's what women need to understand. Patient men are rare and valuable. They don't stay patient forever, but they'll stay patient longer if you give them reason. That reason isn't perfection. It's reciprocity. Match his energy. Acknowledge his effort. Respect his boundaries. Show appreciation for his understanding. When he communicates a need, actually receive it. When he sets a boundary, respect it immediately. Don't test to see if he means it. When he shows patience with your difficult moments, acknowledge that patience verbally. Recognition prevents resentment. Prioritize him the way he prioritizes you. Stop testing him. If you need to test a man's feelings by creating chaos, you're not ready for a patient man. Testing patience until it breaks is like breaking your only flashlight to see if it works. For patient men, patience without boundaries is self-destruction. Your patience is a gift, not an obligation. Give it to people who value it. Withdraw it from people who exploit it. Learn the difference between patience as strength and patience as fear of confrontation. Patient men don't become cold because they're weak or damaged. They become cold because someone systematically taught them that warmth is dangerous, that patience is exploitable, that understanding will be used against them, and that the cost of staying warm exceeds the benefit. If you're a woman watching this and recognizing your relationship, if he's still patient, there's time. If he's starting to withdraw, there's less time, but still hope. If he's gone cold, you need massive sustained change to have any chance. And if he's left, the patient man you knew is gone. Not because he's vindictive, but because he finally chose himself. If you're a patient man watching this, your patience is valuable. Don't waste it on people who don't appreciate it. And don't let anyone convince you that going cold was your failure. You tried, you communicated, you stayed longer than most would have. You became cold because warmth wasn't safe. That's not weakness, that's adaptation. Subscribe if this explained what you've experienced. Comment if you've been the patient man who went cold or the woman who realizes too late what she lost. Share this with someone who needs to understand. Patience has limits. Respect those limits before they become walls. The patient man doesn't want to be cold. He was made that way. One ignored communication, one disrespected boundary, one exploited moment of understanding at a time.